Hello, everybody, and welcome back to almost First Ring Daily, because we do it most days, but not every day, including yesterday.
Slow ring daily today.
Anyways, so what I did yesterday, the reason why we didn't do a podcast, is because my kid is home, who I am expecting will just barge down here a million times, even though I've given her plenty of food and drink and every other life supply she might need. But much like Paul's cat, she hears us talking, and she comes crawling. But what I did with my kid yesterday is we went here, which is the Air Force Museum in right near Wright Pat Air Force Base, which is where flight kind of happened many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And, yes, the same Wright as in the Wright brothers, for anybody who's curious.
Sure.
And they have many planes, including this beauty right here, the SR-71, which my daughter said, "Dad, you're looking at it too long. Let's keep moving," which is pretty profound coming from a 4-year-old.
Yep.
So,
You're not allowed to have an attention span, Brad.
but I mean, just look at it. It's going to be Aviation Week, by the way, folks, on this background image all week, probably as long as I remember, because there are lots of good... What are you drinking?
I think it's called cold brew. Is that the right term? That's good. It's kind of a slow start today. You got to bear with me.
But anyway, so it was an interesting weekend. Obviously, it snowed yesterday. It's going to be 74 today.
Are you serious? 74.
Yeah, dude, you've got some wicked rain coming. Like, I've never heard rain.
It's pouring.
Like, it was just dumping last night.
It's not going to be 74, I can tell you that. The high today is only 45.
Yeah,
58 tomorrow, though. This is the thing, though. We always talk today on Weather Weekly. When I moved here, I expected, because it is the norm, that spring would start earlier and the temperatures would get warmer faster. And we've had little dips into the 50s, but a week from today, it's going to be in the 40s still. I don't know. So it's an ongoing concern.
I was trying to pull up the actual radar to see what it's doing outside. Here, we'll just, we're going to go big here on First Weather Daily.
Look at you. Wow. Live demo.
Yeah. Let's see here. Well, this website doesn't work too well. Why can't I zoom out?
Oh, there you go.
Well, that's the opposite of what I wanted to do. Oh, maybe I've got to actually hit the zoom out button. That might be.
Yeah, see if you... Yeah, right. So if you go east and a little north of Brad, and you see that smaller green area, over to the right, a little more. Yep, right in there.
Yep,
That's me.
yep.
That's where I live.
Yeah. And as you can see, this is called, I believe the technical term for all this is a cluster of shit.
Yes. I think, even if that's not the technical term, I would say that is correct.
Oh, that shouldn't have closed everything, but thank you, Maricast. There we go. We are rocking and rolling. So, Paul, obviously, big things happened on, what was that, Friday, Thursday, something like that. How are you feeling today? Have you come out of your coma, hangover?
No, in fact, you were commenting that it's going to be like airplane week or whatever. For me, it's just a week of coping. I mean, maybe we should think of this of the 7 stages of grief or something, but I think the irony here, or maybe even the hypocrisy, whatever you want to call it, is that I have been discussing this for years. I dug up this article I wrote 2 years ago where I infamously described mobile, Android and iOS, as a potential extinction moment for Windows, that they are this asteroid heading to the Earth to destroy the Windows dinosaur. And I get a lot of crap when I write stuff like that from people who, Windows is a future, blah, blah, blah. There's so many people still using it. I get it. I mean, but, I feel like, well, not I feel like, it's very clear that this decline of Windows is inevitable. It's happening around us. Microsoft, you might argue through its actions, is hastening the process. But, when they get like an eyelash in my eye or something, they have bigger goals than I have. I care about Windows, right? Microsoft cares about Microsoft, of course. And under Satya Nadella, There have been massive layoffs. There's been what I would call a ruining of Windows, product cancellations, technology cancellations. Remember the Android bridge? It was too good to live, that kind of stuff. And I feel those things personally, and I think a lot of people in the community do as well, Windows enthusiasts, et cetera. But you also can't deny the fact that Microsoft has been incredibly successful under him. You just have to look at the stock price or look at their ongoing profit revenue mix and the upward trajectory of both. They're doing something right. It's just that, and again, I've been saying this for years, but the company that emerges on the other side of this equation is not one that I'm interested in the slightest. And so, I care very deeply about Windows. I maintain a book about Windows 10. It's the one thing, I really still do. I care about it a lot. And it's hard to stand by and watch this happen. And even though I've known for years that this was coming, not this exact thing today, I don't mean like I'm Nostradamus, but I mean, general trend, this is what's happening. There's something about the manifestation of it happening that it's still really hard to deal with. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's it doesn't matter if it doesn't make it easier, I guess. So anyway, I'm just I think I don't know what I'm going to write exactly going forward. I mean, I have some kind of plan, for articles, but I wouldn't be surprised if this discussion or whatever kind of continued as I just work through my own emotional issues. I don't know. It's weird to say it like that. I mean, but it bothers me. It bothers me personally.
Yeah, Microsoft is on its heels a little bit here because they need to prove to the world that, hey, Windows really isn't going away, as they've kind of alluded to and done all this with the reorg.
Right.
Because that's a really bad thing for them. They don't want Windows to go away. They just know it's not going to make them much more money. It's going to be very sustainable. It's going to make a bunch of money every quarter, but it's not going to grow. So they don't want it to go away, but they need to figure out how they are going to start phrasing this so that people don't say, well, it's over.
Yeah.
There's all she wrote.
Yep. Look, the kind of ostrich in the sand type folks who are going to argue about the size of the installed base and business customers and all that have a point. And it's not, it doesn't, things don't just die and go away. It's not things this big. Windows was for like 3 decades, or 3 decades, I would say, the center of gravity at Microsoft. It was the thing that enabled everything else that they did. Mm-hmm. And so even within Microsoft, there is an old guard that finds it very hard to move on from this. It's understandable, how hard this is. But it's also very easy to look at the situation and see where things are going, And so there are still some hundreds of millions of, is that right? As I say that, it sounds incorrect. But yes, there are over 200 million PCs sold every year. That's a sizable number. Some percentage of them are premium PCs, gaming PCs that have a pretty good profit to revenue mix or whatever. And, this is not something that dies. Microsoft's corporate customers are is a sizable audience, and they're not going anywhere. They don't go anywhere. They never go anywhere. So that's going to happen very slowly. Mm-hmm. But look, I don't care how enthusiastic you are about anything. I mean, you don't have to be an industry insider to see all the enthusiasm that's happening around mobile.
Right.
And to see the lack of enthusiasm, generally speaking, that's happening around PCs or even around Macs. I mean, I think we're at the point now where, no matter what kind of an Apple guy you are, and you love the Mac or whatever it is, you would agree that Apple has kind of let that one slip by the wayside too, and has made some weird decisions that you don't quite agree with. I mean, it's probably basically the same kind of thing. Like you kind of grappling with this weirdness. This is maybe the reason I came to this company to begin with in many cases. And what is all this emphasis on this other stuff? The other stuff from Microsoft is the cloud, obviously, or more precisely, it's this intelligent cloud, intelligent edge thing. I would ask anyone watching this or reading my stuff to go and look at what Microsoft has said and written about that stuff, because it is not a future of Windows-powered devices. It just isn't. I mean, so, here we are.
The interesting thing here is, one, if you put yourselves in the shoes of, say, like HP or Dell or one of these companies that makes PCs, obviously, again, it's not going away overnight. 200 million PCs sold a year. There's still a lot of money there. But 10 years from now, is it still going to be 200 million PCs? I don't think so.
Yeah, it is really, it's a weird perfect storm of just disruption. The market changes, right? Mm-hmm. So web, cloud, mobile happens. And these devices in particular are a lot more personal than a computer is. And so people, that you've seen everywhere in the world, people just staring into their phones. They're like hypnotized or something. People sit down in front of a PC and they have to do work. They want this to be over as soon as possible and they leave. But the other side of that is that PCs over the years have gotten a lot better. They're more reliable. They last longer. Windows is supported for many, many years. People don't feel the need to upgrade. And these things kind of add up to, fewer sold over time. And I think it just kind of keeps going down. We may see little ripple bumps or whatever, but I think it declines. I mean, I don't think there's any question. The only question is just what the speed is. So the one thing I'll just kind of say vaguely, because I probably can't provide too many details. And by the way, that was the first time that the Samsung voice assistant ever came up when I said something. I think that was kind of interesting. I have to go back and listen to what I said. So I've spent much of the past, 5-6 days on the phone with people from Microsoft, people who are former Microsoft, people who are on the periphery of Microsoft because they're in the industry otherwise, talking about what's going on with Windows, talking about what's going on with the PC, talking about Microsoft and its strategy and its future, talking about Terry, and I wish, I keep waiting for someone who isn't Microsoft PR to say something to me that would make me feel better about the future and the future that I care about. Right. And I got to tell you, I'm not getting a lot of that. I think I haven't talked to Frank Shaw yet. Maybe I will soon. He called yesterday, but I missed the call.
I don't know if you really missed it.
Yeah. Well, look, there's a company line that has to be heard too. I mean, and I think it's fair to reserve any final judgment on this until Microsoft speaks publicly about what's going on, right? Because there are milestones coming up, including Build, where Terry will be, by the way, and they will supposedly discuss the future of Windows at that event. Is also the end of the fiscal year, after which I expect some round of layoffs to occur, as it seems to happen every year, right? Starting with some small thousands and going up into the 10,000 range, as it does every year, by the way, under Satya Nadella. That's part of the legacy of this transformation, as he calls it, is that there's going to be collateral damage. So we don't have the full story. I'm sure they are scrambling right now to come up with a positive message within the Windows orgs, whatever Windows is today. I don't even know. And they'll put their best face on it. And I will certainly hear them out because I care very deeply about this thing. But I feel like, there's always like these stories where there's like the dark messenger that no one wants to hear. But he's telling the truth. And, they want to take him out back and just beat him behind the woodshed or whatever. I feel like that guy,
Yeah,
and
we'd like to beat you behind the woodshed.
Place. Yeah,
that would be good.
I could use a good beating for sure.
Yep. Well, moving on here, because this is tangibly related, Apple is expected to dump Intel chips by the year 2020. While they don't explicitly say what chips they would go to, I think it's extremely clear that it'll be some sort of their own homegrown chip. And I fully expect that at that time is when we will see that Mac OS to iOS conversion kind of really go into full gear.
Yes. Apple is in a very unique position because they make all their own devices. So they're already doing that thing where they put some chips from iOS devices into their PCs, like Touch ID, which is very interesting. There is absolutely no reason they couldn't put an whatever processor in a Mac right now and just use that to run iPad apps or whatever. They could do that kind of thing. Apple has a rich history of technology transitions as well. They, of course, went from PowerPC to Intel. I don't remember what year that was, but back in the day. And did that very successfully. And I think, that will be the model that they might use to move to the A-series chips. Also, this has been long expected. Apple's modus operandi is to partner when they have to and to move aggressively to eliminate those partners so they don't have to. Something as core to their being as like, the Intel processors that might power Macs, for example, is something they did not have the expertise to do anything about 10, 15 years ago. Today, And who knows? I don't know how this works exactly. I don't know if it's dual chip type stuff or
Yeah.
low end A series Macs that are the equivalent of this Windows 10 on ARM thing. And my Siri just came on, by the way. So let's see if I can go for the trifecta. And it's amazing how many of these things come on when I talk. This is inevitable. I mean, did anyone not see this coming? Right?
Yeah.
Again, it was just a matter of time, not a matter of if.
Yep, it'll be interesting. I suspect, to your exact point, we're going to see a slow transition. This isn't going to be, they're going to come out and be like, surprise, here's a MacBook Air that only runs iOS. It's going to be, soon you can run iOS apps on Mac OS,
Yes.
and then eventually it'll just be, that's the only thing. And I could even see them doing a phased rollout where the MacBook Air becomes the iOS only thing, and then they still have the Mac Pro that does both. And then over time, as it kind of scales up.
Yeah, the big Macs, the Power Macs, whatever they call them these days, would be the workstation class devices that may still need a, what's the matter?
The Big Mac with the special sauce, sesame seed bun.
The one that has the extra layer of bread in the middle there. With the workstation. So it's funny. Everyone's doing this kind of combination of mobile and desktop, right? Because mobile is the volume. That's where all the money is.
Yep.
And it's where outside of Microsoft, it's where the rich app ecosystems are too. But the other fundamental difference between Apple stuff and Microsoft's, and this is really important, it's true of Google as well, is those apps and those platforms, those mobile app platforms, Android and iOS, are incredibly sophisticated now, much more so than the universal Windows platform is on Windows. It's odd to me that Microsoft, who understood desktop computing as well or better than anybody, was never able to mature that, or never did mature it into what I'd call a more command dense kind of environment that could, you could make professional applications like Photoshop and Microsoft Office, right? Whereas on the iOS side, and I think on Android as well, those things have scaled up. And I don't think iPad apps running on the Mac are going to be a step down. I don't think it's, for the most part. I mean, some of them will be, obviously. But I mean, there are professional-looking iOS apps, iPad apps that will look great and work great on the Mac. No doubt about it.
Yep, and PWAs will only help that.
Yeah, I mean, that's our saving grace as well on Windows, by the way. So, yeah.
Yep, so this will be a fun little mix and match journey, if you will, to see how this. There were some rumors that we might start seeing that this year at WWDC, because you figure 2020, while that sounds like that's very far away, that's less than 2 years. It's 2018, almost halfway to 2018, so that's a year and a half.
Yeah, and the things to look for there are, we had obviously already had rumors about iPad apps running on the Mac. My cat has arrived, by the way. And I would say WWDC this June is probably the earliest time where they might talk about the beginnings of this transition. They probably won't say it that way.
Right.
They don't want to freak anybody out. But, they'll bring iPad app compatibility first. There'll be capabilities for that mixed environment. Google does this with Android where, the app can sense what kind of device it's running on. And in that case, it could work with a mouse and it always works with a keyboard probably, but they'll do all that stuff and they'll transition it. Smart.
Yeah, it's smart. Also, other things that are smart. 1803 should be arriving just about any day now. I wonder if they're going to bundle it in with Patch Tuesday, maybe. That might make the most sense.
Yeah, that's the ongoing theory. Next Tuesday.
Did they release the ISOs for this by any chance?
Say again?
Did they put ISOs out for the slow ring?
No. I've been talking about the milestones for this build, and I forgot about. Obviously, fast rings first, the big milestone. It goes to slow ring as the confirmation that this is it.
It's already. I think they pushed it to slow ring.
It just took 3 days. I mean, in the middle of development of a version of Windows, the fastest you would see go from fast to slow is about a week, right? So they made this happen in 3 days, and by the way, in doing so, hit the end of March, which I think was important. Typically, and I shouldn't say typically, but a while back, the slow ring release would coincide with the release to ISO of that particular build. They haven't actually done that in a while, or haven't done it very consistently, and they haven't done it yet for this build. So there is an ISO available of the previous build, which is useless. But yeah, sometime between now and I would say the middle of April, I'm sure there'll be an ISO. And then I think, like you said, I think Tuesday is probably going to be the day it starts heading out publicly.
Yep. I mean, technically today's Tuesday, but I think it'd be next Tuesday would be the.
Well, because it's again, these things are not quite written in stone anymore, but Patch Tuesday historically has been the second Tuesday of the month.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Da, da, da. You got anything else for today, Paul?
No, I got to post the video. Yesterday I reset this computer I'm using here. My intention was to reset it so I'd be on the current RS4, the RS4 build.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was resetting, and I've never experienced this before, at least to my memory. But it it actually blue screened in the middle of resetting. So I think it got to 64%. Blue screen came up. Computer reboots. 64% blue screen. It would just sit there. If I didn't stop it, it'd still be doing it right now. I tried to reset it different ways, and then eventually I gave up and I installed, the previous version of Windows, and then I upgraded it. And I spent like the entire afternoon on this. This process, which should have been about 2 hours with all the apps and everything you have to install, turned into like a career, for me yesterday. And I was talking to Raphael, and I had finally gotten it upgraded to the final build or whatever. And I said, I'm tempted to reset it again, just to see if it does the same thing, because I don't know if it's this computer or
Yeah.
if what if there's something wrong with RS4, right? That the reset doesn't work. And he was like, "Are you seriously you just spent 3 hours bringing this thing up, and your first act is gonna be to kill it?" And he's like, "Just use it." I'm like, "That's a good point." So I didn't do it. I'm gonna leave it alone.
Well, lovely. Much like this SR-71.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
It really is. And they actually have two of them up there. They got a little greedy. They got two of the birds.
There's probably three, but you can't see them because they're secret.
Oh, there are a couple stealth bombers over there. You can see this guy back here, which looks like a stealth bomber that maybe ran into a wall. That was actually a prototype to test out if the design of the stealth bomber would actually be, in fact, hard to see on radar.
Like impervious to radar or whatever.
Yep, they basically tested it out. You can't really see it, but it's almost got like this giant like duckbill like flat thing on the front, and I don't know what it was for. My daughter wouldn't let me read it.
What's the theory there? Like, doesn't it? It doesn't deflect radar, which is how radar works. It does deflect it, but it doesn't send it back. It kind of deflects it off to the side, so that the appearance from the thing shooting the radar up is that there's nothing there.
Yep.
Right, because it just kind of bounces off at the wrong direction. I think.
Something along those lines. Paul and I have proven many times we are not mathematicians. But,
yes, right. But avionics? Oh yeah, no, I'm an expert in that.
Easily.
I can't calculate the tip at a restaurant, but I can explain to you how radar works. No problem. Yep. Yep.
Oh man. Boy. All right, folks. Well, that wraps it up for today, and we'll catch you right back here tomorrow on First Ring Daily.